When you hit your mid-30s or 40s, there's a feeling that starts to creep up on you. You may think it's just you or your sucky job that's making you feel this way. What if I told you that this feeling, this so called midlife crisis, isn't personal or random? It's actually something that we are expected to go through. It's, in other words, a scheduled chapter in the human experience. Let's do a quick experiment. Think back to the time when you were, say, 21, full of energy, your first proper job, and starting to have a taste of financial freedom. The world opens up with opportunities and possibilities. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy were you? Hold that number. Now, imagine yourself at 70. You've achieved most of the stuff you wanted to do and bought most of the things you've wanted to buy. You've seen and learned enough that you've made peace with the world. With some luck, you are now retired, doing things for fun rather than for necessity. How happy do you think you would be? And now, how happy are you? For decades, researchers have been asking millions of people questions just like this. And when they plotted the answers by age, a strange but surprisingly cliche shape emerged. A shape that seems to tell the story of a typical human life. This is the U curve of happiness. And yeah, it's pretty much what it looks like. Our life satisfaction starts high in our youth, then dips down, hitting rock bottom in our mid to late 40s, before rising again in our 70s, with many reporting being even happier than their 20s. This was first reported in The Economist in 2010. Then David Blanchflower decided to test it again in 2020. He took well-being data from 132 countries and found that, yes, the U curve of happiness still holds a decade later. According to his data, we are expected to hit emotional rock bottom at approximately 47.2 years old. Well, I'm not looking forward to that. The immediate assumption was that this was all caused by our modern lives. Sociological and economic forces such as mortgages, careers, peer pressure. But to really test that, scientists had to ask a truly wild question. Is this pattern uniquely human? Or is it something older? So, Alexander West and his colleagues decided to test it on other great apes as well. Over 500 chimpanzees and orangutans. They couldn't give them a survey, of course.
Excuse me, sir.
So they asked the people who know them best, their zookeepers and caretakers. The team asked them to rate the well-being of these primates over the years, their moods, pleasure from social situations, and achieving goals such as getting a desired food item. And they found that, yes, they too experience midlife crisis. Think about what this means. This U curve of happiness might be something that is deeper than our jobs or our culture. It could be biological. And so, it's settled then. It's genetically coded in us, and we are just supposed to hang in there for a decade. Maybe we are supposed to feel comforted because everyone else is also going through this. You know what? No. Fuck this happiness curve. I'm not going to sit here and wait for another, 30 years for things to get better. I want to know why life satisfaction increases again when we get older. We cannot ignore the social and psychological influences at play. We are, after all, a community-based species. So, by midlife, many of us have already achieved a certain level of stability in our career and personal life. Ironically, this stability is also what contributes to feelings of being stuck. There is this psychological phenomenon called the hedonic adaptation, also known as the hedonic treadmill. It posits that no matter what happens, whether we land our dream job or get blindsided by something awful, our happiness tends to reset to a baseline, which is great for getting through the hard stuff. But it also means that when we get that raise, that bigger house, that nicer car, the emotional payoff fades faster than we like. Our expectations and desires rise in tandem. The problem is that us being in our prime, it feels not just expected, but almost irresponsible not to keep striving for more. So the rat race hits us hard. When the goalposts are constantly moving, we just keep running and running without feeling like we are getting anywhere really. Midlife is also the period of peak responsibility. Many of us find ourselves sandwiched between the needs of our growing children and the needs of our aging parents. This dual caregiving role, combined with career expectations, creates a period of immense time, financial, and emotional pressure. Arguably, this is the busiest decade of our lives, and somehow it's the one where the least is actually for us. When you lay it all out, it's easy to see why life feels happier when we get older. Responsibilities start to fade, sure, but more importantly, the gap between expectations and reality finally begins to narrow. Neuroscientists discovered something called the positivity effect from fMRI scans. They found that as we age, our amygdala starts to show less activity in response to negative images. Maybe it's jadedness or desensitization. But whatever the cause is, the result is that we start to pay more attention to positive experiences and thus remembering them better, while letting the negative ones go more easily. When the idea of mortality gets less and less abstract, it makes sense for our focus to shift away from competition and consumption towards relationships, community, and basically self acceptance. There isn't a need to perform anymore, and our happiness evolves from being hedonic to eudaimonic, grounded in purpose, coherence, and presence. I know, it's that super cliche making peace with life thing, but this time it does seem like there might be some science behind it. And if we know we are already following this happiness curve, if we know that the dip is coming and that we can disrupt it just by shifting our approach towards life, why wouldn't we try?